Be me, 41 years old, accomplished professional woman. Spent my entire adult life building a career in finance. Started as an analyst right out of college, worked my way up to senior vice president. Always knew I was destined for more than what my mother had. She spent her whole life cooking dinners and waiting for Dad to come home. Died having never done anything meaningful with her existence. Swore that would never be me. Remember being 20 and watching my college roommate drop out junior year. She got engaged to some guy she met at a football game. Literally threw away her education to plan a wedding. I tried to talk sense into her, but she just smiled that vapid smile. Said she was in love and wanted to start a family. Felt nothing but pity watching her move out. She was so smart too. Could have been something. Throughout my 20s, I focused entirely on career advancement. Worked 70-hour weeks regularly. My male colleagues thought they could outwork me. Showed every single one of them they were wrong. Got promoted twice before any of them got promoted once. Dating was never a priority because I had actual goals. Men were fine for occasional company, but I never let them distract me. Most of them couldn't handle a woman who was smarter than them anyway. Remember my 30th birthday clearly. My sister hosted a dinner party. She had married at 26 and already had 2 kids by then. Spent the whole evening talking about soccer practice and preschool applications. Her husband kept interrupting her to tell boring stories about his job. She just smiled and nodded, like everything he said was fascinating. Watched her cut his food when he was talking because he was too engaged in his story. Felt embarrassed for her. This was what she thought success looked like. The other women at the party were the same, talking about their husbands' careers like they were their own achievements. My husband got promoted. My husband closed a big deal. My husband is so stressed. None of them had identities separate from their marriages. When they asked what I did, I told them about my recent promotion. The conversation got quiet. Then one of them asked if I was seeing anyone. Told them I was too busy being successful to worry about that. They exchanged these looks like they felt sorry for me, as if I was the one to be pitied. My sister pulled me aside later, asked if I was happy. Told her I was extremely happy. I had a corner office and a 6-figure salary. I traveled internationally for work. I answered to no one. She got this sad expression and said that's not what she meant. Asked if I ever got lonely. Told her loneliness is a social construct designed to make women think they need men. She just hugged me and said she hoped I'd find what I was looking for. Still don't know what she meant by that. Throughout my 30s, I became even more successful. Made partner at 35. Youngest woman to ever achieve that at my firm. Gave talks at conferences about breaking glass ceilings. Wrote op-eds about women in finance. Became somewhat known in my industry as an advocate for women's advancement. Other women would email me asking for advice. Always told them the same thing. Never compromise your ambitions for anyone. Your career is the only thing that truly belongs to you. Had a few relationships during this time, but none of them worked out. The men were always intimidated by my success. They said they wanted an equal partner, but they really wanted someone who would prioritize their needs. One guy actually told me I was too focused on work. This coming from a man who checked his phone during dinner every night. When I did it suddenly, it was a problem. They all eventually left for women who were more accommodating. More submissive is what they meant. Never felt bad about it. Saw it as dodging bullets. Started noticing something around 37 though. The junior women at my firm kept getting engaged. They'd show up with rings and everyone would congratulate them. They'd start planning weddings while working on mergers. Some of them even got pregnant. Would take maternity leave and then come back part-time. Always felt frustrated by this. They were throwing away their potential. Tried to mentor a few of them. Told them they needed to choose what was really important. You can't have it all despite what people say. Something has to give, and it shouldn't be your career. One of them, Sarah, seemed to really get it. She was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Reminded me of myself at that age. We'd have lunch, and I'd share all my hard-earned wisdom. Told her about all the sacrifices I made to get where I was. The relationships I didn't pursue, the social events I skipped. How it was all worth it in the end. She listened intently, and I felt like I was really making a difference. Then she got engaged at 29. Felt personally betrayed. She came to my office to tell me. Expected me to be happy for her, I guess. Told her she was making a mistake. She had so much potential, and she was going to waste it playing house. Her face fell, and she left. She stopped having lunch with me after that. Around this time, I started writing a blog. Nothing serious, just observations about workplace dynamics and gender politics. Wrote a lot about traditional wives, how they were setting feminism back generations, how they were betraying their own potential and intelligence, how they were teaching their daughters that their value came from serving men. The posts got a lot of engagement. Instat never 1-2-1. Other career women would comment agreeing with me. Some traditional wives would show up and argue. They'd say they were happy and fulfilled. Told them happiness isn't the goal, achievement is. Happiness is fleeting, but accomplishments last forever. Wrote one post that went particularly viral. It was about a woman I knew from college who had become a stay-at-home mom. She posted constantly on social media about her life. Pictures of homemade bread and her kids' art projects. Long captions about how blessed she was. Wrote about how sad it was that she thought so small. How she could have been anything and she chose to be nothing. The post got thousands of shares. Mostly from women like me who understood. But also got attention from people who disagreed. Traditional wives came out in droves to defend their choices. Didn't engage with them much. You can't reason with people who have internalized their own oppression. My sister stopped talking to me after that post. Apparently some of her friends had sent it to her. She called me upset. Said I was judgmental and cruel. Said her life had meaning and value. Told her I never said it didn't. Just said she could have had more. She asked me what more meant. Told her independence, achievement, recognition in her field. She laughed this bitter laugh. Said I had all those things and I seemed miserable. Told her I wasn't miserable at all. She said, then why did I spend so much time judging other people's choices? Didn't have a good answer for that. We haven't spoken much since. At 39, I got promoted to executive vice president. Pinnacle of my career. Everything I had worked for. The announcement went out company-wide. Got congratulations from colleagues. Went home to my empty apartment and opened a bottle of wine. Sat on my couch and looked around at my expensive furniture and my expensive art. Everything was exactly as I wanted it. Felt this strange hollowness. Pushed it away. This was success. This was what mattered. Started noticing married couples more after that. On the subway, in restaurants, walking down the street. The way they'd lean into each other. The casual intimacy of it. Would tell myself they were probably miserable in private. Statistics show most marriages end in divorce anyway. They were just putting on a show. But sometimes I'd see elderly couples holding hands. 50, 60 years together. Wondered what that felt like. Then reminded myself I had something better. I had myself. 40th birthday hit hard. Not because of age. I don't believe in that societal nonsense about women expiring. But because of the silence. My parents sent a card. Got messages from a few colleagues. My sister sent a brief text. No party, no celebration. Told myself I didn't need that. Went to an expensive restaurant alone. Treated myself to a nice meal. The waiter asked if I was waiting for someone. Told him no, just me. He gave me this pitying look. Wanted to scream at him that I chose this. This was empowerment. Work started feeling different after 40. The younger women coming up didn't look at me with admiration anymore. They looked at me with something else. Maybe it was pity. Maybe it was fear. Fear that they'd end up like me. Stopped being invited to mentor junior employees. Heard through the grapevine that I was seen as out of touch. Too rigid in my thinking. Didn't understand work-life balance. Felt hurt by this. I had paved the way for these women. They owed their opportunities to women like me who sacrificed everything. One day a new junior analyst started. Her name was Amanda. She was 24, bright-eyed, ambitious. Exactly like I was at that age. Took her under my wing without being asked. Started giving her advice over coffee. Told her all the things she needed to know to succeed. She nodded politely, but I could tell she wasn't really listening. Asked her if she had a boyfriend. She said yes. Told her to be careful not to let that distract her from her goals. She looked uncomfortable. Said she thought she could have both. Told her no one can really have both. Someone always loses, and it's usually the woman's career. She made an excuse and left early. HR called me in a week later. Apparently Amanda had complained. Said I was being inappropriate. Giving unsolicited advice about her personal life. Creating a hostile work environment. Couldn't believe it. I was trying to help her. Explained this to HR. They said I needed to maintain professional boundaries. Gave me a warning. Felt humiliated. Everything I had done was for the betterment of younger women. And this is how they repaid me. Started eating lunch alone after that. Didn't want to risk another complaint. Would sit in my office and scroll through social media. Saw Sarah's wedding photos. She looked happy. Genuinely happy in a way I couldn't remember feeling. Her husband was looking at her like she was the only person in the world. Felt this unexpected pang of something. Jealousy, maybe? Closed the app. Told myself she'd regret it in a few years, when her career had stalled and she was changing diapers. Then she'd realize I was right. My college roommate, the one who dropped out, posted about her 20th anniversary. 20 years with the same person. The photo showed her and her husband and their 4 kids. They were on a beach somewhere, all tan and smiling. The caption was about how grateful she was for her family, how they were her greatest achievement. Wanted to comment something about how sad that was. That her greatest achievement was other people. But didn't. Just closed my laptop and poured another glass of wine. Started thinking about dating again around this time. Not because I needed a man, but because everyone kept implying something was wrong with me for being alone. Downloaded some apps. Swiped through profiles. Men my age were looking for women in their 30s. When I matched with them, they'd ask what I did. When I told them I was an EVP at a finance firm, they'd stop responding. Or they'd make jokes about being a kept man, like my success was emasculating. Matched with men who seemed okay with successful women. But they were usually divorced with kids. Bitter about their ex-wives. Would complain about alimony and child support. Didn't want to be anyone's consolation prize. Went on a date with one guy who seemed promising. He was a doctor, successful in his own right. We met for dinner at a nice restaurant. Conversation was going well until he asked about my personal life. Told him about my career achievements. He listened politely, then asked if I wanted children. Told him I never prioritized that. He asked if I regretted it. Said no, why would I? He shrugged and said, most women my age do. Felt my blood pressure rising. Told him that was a sexist assumption. He backtracked, but the damage was done. Spent the rest of the dinner arguing about gender roles. He said men and women were biologically programmed for different things. Told him that was pseudoscience. He paid the check, and we left. He didn't ask for a second date. Told myself he was just another insecure man anyway. Kept going on dates throughout the year. None of them went anywhere. The men either couldn't handle my success or they were looking for something I couldn't provide. They wanted warmth, nurturing, flexibility. Qualities I had spent my life rejecting as patriarchal constructs. One man actually told me I was cold. Said I talked about work too much. Said I didn't seem interested in connecting emotionally. Told him I was very capable of emotional connection. He asked when was the last time I cried. Couldn't remember. He said that proved his point. The date ended badly. Started seeing a therapist around this time. Not because I thought anything was wrong, but because I thought it might help with the dating thing. The therapist was a woman in her 50s. She had pictures of her family on her desk. Asked me about my life and I told her everything. My accomplishments, my career, my goals. She listened without judgment, then asked about my relationships. Told her they never worked out because men were intimidated by me. She asked if that was the only reason. Got defensive. Told her, yes, obviously. She asked what I was looking for in a partner. Realized I didn't really know. Someone who was successful, intelligent, not threatened by me. She asked what I offered in return. Told her I was successful, intelligent, independent. She gently suggested that relationships required more than parallel achievements. They required vulnerability and compromise. Told her compromise was just another word for giving up your power. She wrote something in her notebook. Didn't go back after that session. Work continued to be my main focus, but something had shifted. The satisfaction I used to get from closing deals was fading. Would complete a major project and feel nothing. Just moved on to the next thing. The junior employees avoided me. The partners treated me with respect, but not warmth. Was very good at my job, but realized I had no real friends there. No one asked about my weekend. No one invited me to after-work drinks. Told myself I preferred it that way. Less drama, more focus. But sometimes I'd hear laughter from someone else's office and feel left out. 41st birthday was approaching. Decided to do something different. Threw myself a party. Sent out invitations to colleagues and old acquaintances. Booked a nice venue. Hired caterers. Wanted to show everyone I had a rich, full life. The RSVPs came back slowly. Most people declined. Work commitments, family obligations, prior plans. The party ended up being me and 12 people, mostly colleagues who felt obligated to come. They stayed for an hour and left. Stood in the venue I had rented for 50 people, surrounded by untouched food and decorations. The staff looked at me with pity, paid the bill, and went home. That night I got drunk alone in my apartment. Started scrolling through social media again. Everyone's lives looked so full. Family photos, vacation pictures, milestone celebrations. My feed was just reposts of articles and work achievements. Looked at my own profile like a stranger would see it. Saw someone who existed only in professional terms. No personal posts, no photos with friends, nothing that showed a life outside work. Felt pathetic, then felt angry at myself for feeling pathetic. This was the life I chose. This was empowerment. Started noticing couples everywhere again. But this time, I really looked at them. Saw a traditional wife in the coffee shop. She was with her husband and kids. She was cutting up her daughter's pancakes while talking to her son about his homework. Her husband was reading something on his phone. She didn't seem oppressed. She seemed content. Her husband looked up and smiled at her. She smiled back. This small moment of connection. Felt that pang again. Sharper this time. Ran into my old college roommate unexpectedly. She was in the city for the weekend. Her kids were with their grandparents. She suggested we get coffee. Almost said no, but something made me agree. We sat down and she asked about my life. Gave her the professional summary. EVP, major accounts, industry recognition. She seemed genuinely impressed. Then she told me about her life. Her kids were teenagers now. One was applying to colleges. Her husband had his own business. They'd just celebrated 20 years of marriage. Asked if she ever regretted dropping out. She thought about it. Said sometimes she wondered what could have been. But she didn't regret her life. She loved her family. She had gone back to school part-time and gotten her degree. Was thinking about starting a small business. Asked if I was happy. Gave her the same answer I gave everyone. Yes, very happy. She looked at me the same way my sister did. With this knowing sadness. Didn't understand why everyone looked at me like that. She asked if I was seeing anyone. Told her dating at my age was impossible. Men couldn't handle successful women. She asked if that was really the problem. Got defensive again. Asked what she meant. She said gently that maybe I was looking for reasons relationships didn't work. Maybe I was the one who couldn't handle vulnerability. Felt attacked. Told her she didn't understand. She had taken the easy path. She had never had to fight like I did. Her face changed. Said raising 4 kids while supporting her husband's business wasn't easy. Said she fought different battles than I did. Said she made sacrifices too. Just different ones. The conversation ended awkwardly. We haven't spoken since. Went back to my therapist. Different one this time, a man. Figured maybe a male perspective would help with the dating situation. Told him about my struggles, finding a partner. He asked about my past relationships. Realized I didn't have much to tell. A few short-term things in my 20s and 30s. Nothing serious. Nothing that lasted more than a year. He asked why they ended. Gave various reasons. They wanted too much time. They were intimidated. We wanted different things. He asked if I noticed a pattern. Told him the pattern was men being unable to handle equality. He suggested perhaps I was choosing men I knew wouldn't work out, as a way to protect myself from actual intimacy. Got angry. Told him that was armchair psychology. He said it was literally his job. Kept going to sessions but resented his observations. Started noticing my age more. Not in the way society says I should, but in practical ways. Took longer to recover from late nights. My back hurt from sitting at my desk. Started getting health issues. High blood pressure, stress-related problems. The doctor said I needed to slow down. Maybe take up yoga or meditation. Told him I didn't have time for that. He gave me that look everyone gives me now. Concern mixed with pity. One of my colleagues retired around this time. He was 65 and had been with the firm forever. They threw him a big party. His wife was there, his kids, his grandchildren. Gave a speech about how the firm was his second family. But his real family was everything to him. Everyone clapped and looked emotional. Looked around the room. Tried to imagine my own retirement party someday. Who would be there? Colleagues who barely knew me. No spouse, no children, no grandchildren. Just me and my accomplishments. Suddenly the accomplishments felt very small. Doubled down on work after that. If this was going to be my legacy, it needed to be impressive. Started mentoring again, despite the warnings. More carefully this time. Found a junior woman who seemed receptive. Her name was Jennifer. She was 30, ambitious, smart. We started having regular meetings. Shared all my wisdom about navigating corporate politics. She seemed grateful. Then she came in one day and announced she was pregnant. Felt like I'd been slapped. Asked if it was planned. She said yes, she and her husband had been trying for 2 years. Asked what she was going to do about work. She said she'd take maternity leave and come back. Told her that would derail her career trajectory. She needed to choose what was more important. She looked at me with this strange expression. Said she wasn't choosing. She was having both. Told her that's not how it works. Someone always sacrifices. She asked who said it had to be her. Didn't have a good answer. She left and requested a different mentor. The therapist asked me about this interaction. Told him I was trying to help her. He asked if she seemed like she wanted help. Admitted she didn't. He suggested I might be projecting my own fears onto younger women. Asked what fears. He said the fear that I made the wrong choices. Got extremely defensive. Told him I made exactly the right choices. I had everything I wanted. He asked what I wanted. Listed my achievements again. He asked what I wanted now, going forward. Couldn't answer. Realized I had spent so long working toward goals that I never thought about what came after achieving them. Started having panic attacks around this time. Would wake up in the middle of the night, unable to breathe. Feeling like I had missed something crucial. Would get up and work to distract myself. But the feeling persisted. Existential dread is what the internet called it. Looked up symptoms. Common in middle age, apparently. When you realize your life is half over and you evaluate what you've done. Didn't like what the evaluation revealed. My sister reached out unexpectedly. Said she'd been thinking about me. Wanted to have dinner. Agreed to meet. We sat across from each other awkwardly at first. She asked how I was really doing. The question broke something in me. Started crying right there in the restaurant. Couldn't remember the last time I cried. She held my hand across the table. Told her I didn't know what I was doing anymore. Everything felt empty. She said gently that it wasn't too late. Too late for what? I asked. She said for whatever I wanted. Told her I didn't know what I wanted anymore. She suggested I figure that out. Maybe take some time off work. Actually think about my life instead of just moving through it. Requested a sabbatical from work. First time I'd taken more than a week off in 20 years. They approved it immediately. Realized they were probably relieved to have me gone. Spent the first week sleeping. The second week cleaning my apartment. The third week I started actually thinking about what my life was. About what I wanted it to be. The answers were uncomfortable. Made a list of my accomplishments. Impressive on paper. EVP at a major firm, industry recognition, financial success. Made a list of my relationships. Much shorter. Estranged from my sister until recently. No close friends. No romantic partner. No children. The second list made the first list feel hollow. Started reading different things. Not just industry publications. Books about meaning and purpose. Philosophy, psychology, memoirs. Read one book by a woman who had a similar career path. She wrote about realizing too late that success without connection was just achievement without fulfillment. Felt like she was writing directly to me. Went back to the therapist. Told him I might have been wrong about some things. He didn't gloat. Just asked what I meant. Told him I spent my whole life defining myself in opposition to traditional women. I rejected everything they valued. Relationships, family, emotional connection. Thought I was being strong and independent. But maybe I was just being afraid. He asked what I was afraid of. Said vulnerability, dependence, losing myself in another person. He asked if I found myself by being alone. Realized I just found emptiness. Started trying to rebuild connections. Reached out to old friends I had neglected. Most of them didn't respond. The ones who did were polite, but distant. Realized I had burned those bridges thoroughly. Tried to connect with colleagues on a personal level, but we had only ever had professional relationships. They didn't know how to interact with me outside that context. Felt completely isolated. Went to a coffee shop and saw a man sitting alone. He looked around my age reading a book. Something made me approach him. Asked if the seat was taken. He said no, and I sat down. We started talking. His name was David. He was a consultant, divorced, 2 kids with his ex-wife. We talked for an hour. It was easy, natural. He asked for my number. Gave it to him. Felt hopeful for the first time in months. To that no faces analogy. We went on a date the following week. Tried to be different than I was on previous dates. Asked him questions instead of talking about myself. Showed interest in his life. He told me about his kids, his work, his hobbies. Asked about my life. Told him the honest version. That I was successful professionally, but struggling personally. That I was trying to figure out what I really wanted. He appreciated the honesty. We scheduled a second date. Things progressed over the next few months. David was patient and kind. Didn't seem threatened by my career, but also didn't let me hide behind it. He pushed me to be vulnerable, to talk about feelings, to admit when I was scared or uncertain. It was uncomfortable, but also liberating. Started to think maybe this could work. Maybe I could have a real relationship. Then he invited me to meet his kids. They were 12 and 14. Polite, but clearly skeptical of me. Tried to connect with them, but realized I had no idea how to talk to children. Asked them about school. They gave one-word answers. David tried to facilitate conversation, but it was awkward. The daughter asked what I did for work. Told her I was an executive at a finance firm. She said cool and went back to her phone. The son asked if I had kids. Said no. He asked why not. Didn't know how to answer that. After the kids went to bed, David and I talked. He asked how I thought it went. Was honest and said not great. He said it would take time. They needed to warm up to me. Asked if I was willing to put in that time. Said yes, but felt uncertain. Being a stepmother was never something I envisioned. Told him that. He said he understood, but it was part of the package. His kids came first. Respected that, but also felt resentful. Here was another situation where I had to compromise. Had to fit myself into someone else's life. The old me would have walked away. The new me tried to stay. Tried to build a relationship with David's kids over the next few months. Went to their soccer games and school events. Tried to be supportive without overstepping. The daughter started to warm up to me. We bonded over both being stubborn. But the son remained distant. David said he was protective because of the divorce. Needed more time. Kept trying, but it was exhausting. Balancing work and this new family dynamic. Realized this is what my sister meant about sacrifice. About choosing what matters. Then David's ex-wife created problems. She didn't like that he was serious with someone. Started making the custody schedule difficult. Using the kids as weapons. David was stressed and pulled in different directions. Tried to be supportive, but also felt frustrated. This drama was not what I signed up for. Caught myself thinking that. Realized I was still approaching relationships transactionally. Like I had to weigh the costs and benefits. The therapist said that was my defense mechanism. Keeping score, so I had an excuse to leave. Tried to stop doing that. Work called during my sabbatical. Said they needed me back for a major deal. Told them I was still on leave. They said this client specifically requested me. Felt that old pull. The validation, the importance, the achievement. Told David I needed to go back for a few weeks. He was disappointed but understanding. Went back to work. Fell into old patterns immediately. Long hours, complete focus, professional excellence. Felt comfortable in a way the personal stuff never did. The deal took 2 months instead of 2 weeks. Kept telling David I'd be done soon. He grew frustrated. Said I was choosing work over our relationship. Told him that wasn't fair. This was my career. He said he knew my career was important. But he needed to know he was important too. Realized I had never actually said that. Never told him I loved him or needed him. Never made myself vulnerable that way. Tried to say it, but the words stuck. He looked at me sadly. Said he didn't think I was capable of putting someone else first. Wanted to argue, but couldn't. Because he was right. We broke up shortly after. He said he needed someone who was all in. Someone who could be a true partner. I was still holding myself apart. Protecting myself from being hurt. Told him I was trying. He said trying wasn't enough. He needed someone who wanted this naturally. Not someone who had to work so hard at it. Felt angry and hurt. Told him he was asking me to be someone I wasn't. He said no, he was asking me to be honest about who I was. And who I was didn't really want this. I wanted to want it, but that wasn't the same thing. Went back to work full-time after that. Threw myself into it completely. The old coping mechanism. But it didn't work the same way anymore. Couldn't lose myself in spreadsheets and conference calls. Kept thinking about what David said. About not being capable of putting someone else first. Wondered if that was true. Or if I just never learned how. My sister had her first grandchild. Saw the photos on social media. Her daughter had a baby girl. The pictures showed 3 generations together. My mother holding her great-grandchild. My sister glowing with joy. My niece exhausted but happy. Felt so far removed from that world. like I was watching through glass. Called my sister to congratulate her. She was excited and emotional. Told me all about the birth. How scared her daughter was. How she held her hand through the whole thing. How amazing it was to see this new life. This continuation of their family. Asked if I wanted to come meet the baby. Said yes. Drove out to see them the following weekend. Held my great niece for the first time. This tiny, perfect person. She grabbed my finger with her whole hand. Felt something shift in my chest. Something I didn't have words for. My sister watched me with this knowing look. Asked if I was okay. Said I didn't know. She said it's never too late. Told her I was 41. Even if I wanted children now, it might not be possible. She said there were other ways. Adoption, fostering, step-parenting, if I really wanted it. Said that was the problem. Didn't know if I really wanted it. Or if I just wanted to want it. Because everyone else seemed to have it. Started thinking about children seriously for the first time. Researched fertility options for women my age. The statistics were not encouraging. Looked into adoption. The process was long and complicated. Looked into fostering. Even more complicated. Realized if I had wanted this, I should have thought about it years ago. But I was so busy proving I didn't need it. Proving I was above those traditional desires. That I never stopped to ask if I actually was. Went to see my mother. Hadn't visited in months. She was getting older, slower. We sat in her kitchen and drank tea. Asked her if she regretted her life. Being a housewife, dedicating everything to Dad and us kids. She looked surprised by the question. Said no, she didn't regret it. She loved her family. She loved creating a home. Asked if she ever wanted more. She asked like what? Like a career, achievement, independence. She laughed and said she had independence. She chose her life. No one forced her into it. She was exactly who she wanted to be. Told her I always pitied her. Thought she wasted her potential. Expected her to be hurt. But she just smiled sadly. Said she knew. Said I spent my whole life running from becoming her. Asked if I was happy with where I ran to. Started crying again. Told her I didn't know. She held me like she did when I was little. Said it's okay not to know. Said I spent so long being certain. Maybe uncertainty was progress. The firm started talking about succession planning. I was only 41, but they wanted to know my long-term plans. Asked if I saw myself as a future CEO. Realized I didn't. Couldn't picture myself doing this for another 20 years. Told them I needed to think about it. They seemed surprised. The old me would have jumped at the opportunity. The new me felt nothing but dread at the thought. It started dating again. More honestly this time. Was upfront about my struggles. About being a work in progress. About not having figured everything out. Scared away a lot of men. But the ones who stayed were different. More patient, more genuine. Went on dates with a teacher who loved his job but would never be wealthy. With an artist who lived simply but passionately. With a widower who was open about his grief and his healing. None of them turned into relationships. But they were real connections. More real than anything I'd had before. Ran into Sarah at a conference. The junior analyst I had tried to mentor years ago. She was pregnant with her second child. Still working, now a VP. She seemed genuinely happy to see me. Asked how I was doing. Was honest and said I was figuring things out. She surprised me by saying, that was brave. Asked what she meant. She said, I always seemed so certain. So sure of everything. It was intimidating. Seeing me be uncertain made me seem human. Asked if she was happy. She said yes. She was tired and stretched thin. But she wouldn't change anything. She had her career and her family. Both mattered to her. Asked how she managed it. She said she didn't manage it perfectly. She just did her best. And forgave herself when she fell short. Forgiveness wasn't something I had considered. Started thinking about what forgiveness might look like. Forgiving my mother for the life I judged. Forgiving my sister for pitying me. Forgiving the traditional wives I mocked. Forgiving the men who left. Forgiving the women I pushed away. Forgiving myself. That was the hardest one. Forgiving myself for the choices I made. The relationships I didn't pursue. The connections I rejected. The judgment I dispensed. The certainty I weaponized. Wrote a blog post for the first time in years. It was different from the others. Wasn't about traditional wives or feminist achievement. Was about being wrong. About spending decades certain I had the answers. About mocking women who made different choices. About equating my worth with my work. about ending up at 41 successful and alone, about not knowing what came next. Hit publish before I could second guess it. The response was immediate and harsh. Women I had inspired felt betrayed, said I was backtracking, giving in to patriarchal pressure, becoming the thing I always fought against. Traditional wives gloated, said they always knew I'd end up lonely and desperate, said this is what happens to feminist career women. Both sides hated me. The feminists for abandoning the cause. The traditional wives for my years of judgment. Neither side was wrong. Deleted all my social media after that. Couldn't handle the constant reminders of my isolation. The happy families and successful careers. The women who seemed to have both. The women who chose one and felt fulfilled. Everyone seemed to have figured out something I missed. My firm offered me a position heading up their London office. Massive opportunity, huge promotion. Exactly what I would have wanted 5 years ago. Turned it down. They were shocked. Asked why. Told them I needed to focus on my personal life. They exchanged looks. The looks said they thought I was having a breakdown. Maybe I was. Maybe that's what growth looks like. Started volunteering at a community center. Teaching financial literacy to low-income women. Thought I could use my skills for something meaningful. The women were grateful but also suspicious. I was this fancy executive in expensive clothes, telling them how to manage money they didn't have. Realized how out of touch I was. Asked them what they actually needed. They needed childcare so they could work. They needed jobs that paid living wages. They needed affordable housing. My spreadsheets and budgeting tips felt useless, but I kept showing up. Eventually they started to trust me, started to see me as a person and not just a symbol. One woman at the center was my age. She had 4 kids from 3 different fathers, worked 2 jobs, had nothing in terms of financial security, but her kids adored her. She was exhausted but devoted. The old me would have judged her choices. The new me just saw someone doing her best. We became something like friends. She asked about my life one day, told her the abbreviated version. She laughed and said, I had everything and nothing. Asked what she meant. She said, I had money and success, but I didn't have people who needed me. Didn't have anyone to come home to. Asked if she was happy with her life. She said happy wasn't the right word. She was fulfilled. Her kids gave her purpose. Asked if she ever wanted more for herself. She said her kids were herself. They were her legacy. Didn't fully understand, but I envied it. Met a man at the community center. He was a volunteer too. Taught a GED prep class. His name was Michael. He was 45, never married. Had dedicated his life to education. We started talking after sessions. He was easy to talk to. Didn't seem impressed or threatened by my career. Just saw me. We started getting coffee. Then dinner. Then spending weekends together. Michael was different from anyone I'd dated. He made less money than me. Didn't care about status or achievement. Cared about impact and meaning. Asked me questions no one else asked. About what brought me joy. About what I was afraid of. About who I wanted to become. Didn't have good answers. But I was starting to figure them out. Told Michael about my past. About the blog posts and the judgment. About mocking traditional wives. About my failed relationships. About feeling like I wasted my life chasing the wrong things. Expected him to be put off. He just listened. Then said everyone is doing their best with what they know. I knew different things now, so I could do better. It was that simple to him. Asked Michael why he never married. He said he almost did once, but she wanted children and he didn't. He let her go so she could have the life she wanted. She's married now with 3 kids. They're still friends. Asked if he regretted it. He said sometimes, but he didn't regret her happiness. Couldn't imagine that kind of selflessness. My relationships had all been about what I wanted. I never considered the other person's needs as equally valid. Michael asked if I wanted children. Was honest and said I didn't know. Spent so long saying I didn't that I never actually asked myself the question. Now it might be too late anyway. He said it's never too late to create family. Family didn't have to mean biological children. It meant people you chose and who chose you. It meant commitment and love and showing up. Asked if he wanted to be my family. He smiled and said he already was. Proposed to Michael 6 months later. Not traditional, but nothing about us was traditional. He said yes. We got married at City Hall. My sister came, Michael's brother, a few friends. No big wedding, no fuss. Just us choosing each other. felt more meaningful than anything I'd achieved professionally. My firm was confused by my marriage. I had never talked about my personal life at work. Suddenly I had a husband. Suddenly I was leaving at 5 instead of working until 9. Suddenly I was taking vacations. My performance didn't suffer, but my priorities clearly shifted. Some colleagues were supportive. Others seemed to think I had given up, didn't care anymore what they thought. Michael and I talked about children, decided to become foster parents. The process was long and invasive. They asked every question imaginable. About our childhoods, our relationship, our motivations. Had to confront a lot of uncomfortable truths. About my workaholism, my judgment, my fear of vulnerability. Almost quit the process several times. Michael kept me steady. Our first foster placement was a 15-year-old girl. She had been in the system for 3 years. Angry, defensive, didn't trust adults. Reminded me of myself in a way. So sure she didn't need anyone. Tried to connect with her. She rejected every attempt. Told Michael this wasn't working. He said give it time. Time felt like failure. But I waited. Slowly, she started to open up. Not to me at first, to Michael. He was patient where I was frustrated. Gentle where I was harsh. Watched him with her and learned. I learned that connection takes time. That trust is earned slowly. That love isn't transactional. Started applying those lessons. Our foster daughter started talking to me. Still guarded but trying. One day she asked if I regretted not having my own kids. Told her, honestly, I used to think I didn't want them. But now I was grateful to have her. She cried. We both did. She's been with us for 2 years now. We're working on adoption. She'll age out of the system soon. Wants to make our relationship permanent. Never imagined myself as a mother, especially not to a teenager. But here I am, learning about TikTok drama and helping with college applications. Attending parent-teacher conferences and setting boundaries. It's harder than any deal I ever closed. More meaningful, too. My sister and I are close now. Our kids are cousins. Well, my foster daughter and her grandchildren. Family gatherings are full and loud. My foster daughter calls my sister Aunt. Calls my mother Grandma. My mother cried the first time. Said she never thought she'd see me like this. Asked what she meant. She said human. Open. Part of something bigger than myself. Still work at the firm, but differently now. No longer angling for the next promotion. Content with where I am. Use my position to actually mentor young women. Not by telling them what to do, but by sharing my mistakes. Tell them about the cost of certainty. About the danger of judgment. About the loneliness of always being right. Some of them get it. Some of them think I'm a cautionary tale. Both are probably true. Ran into one of the traditional wives I mocked online. She recognized me at a coffee shop. Approached me hesitantly. Expected anger. She said she read my blog post about being wrong. Said it took courage to admit that publicly. Apologized for the things I wrote about her and women like her. She accepted the apology. Said she knew I was hurting. Hurt people. We talked for an hour. About her life, my life, the choices we made. They were different choices but equally valid. She seemed at peace in a way I was just learning. Asked her secret. She said there was no secret. She just knew what mattered to her. And built a life around that. So simple. So impossible for me to see for so long. My therapist asked what I learned from everything. Thought about it for a long time. Learned that achievement without connection is empty. Learned that judging others is usually about your own insecurity. Learned that vulnerability is strength, not weakness. Learned that it's never too late to change. Learned that family is chosen as much as given. Learned that being wrong is the first step to being right. Learned that traditional and feminist aren't opposites. They're just different ways of being a woman. Both valid, both valuable. He asked if I was happy now. Said yes. Not the frantic, achieving happiness I used to chase, but something quieter. Contentment, maybe. Gratitude. I have a husband who sees me, a daughter who challenges me, a sister who forgave me, work that sustains me without consuming me. It's not the life I planned. It's better. Sometimes I think about my younger self. So certain, so judgmental, so alone. Wish I could tell her what I know now. That mocking other women's choices doesn't make yours more valid. That achievement is hollow without people to share it with. That it's okay to want both career and family. Or to want one and not the other. Or to change your mind. That the only wrong choice is judging everyone else's. Saw a young woman at work recently. She reminded me of myself at 25. Ambitious, sharp, dismissive of anything she saw as weakness. She was mocking a colleague who just had a baby, saying she'd never let motherhood derail her career. Pulled her aside gently, told her about my own journey, about ending up at 41 successful and alone, about learning the hard way that balance is possible, about the cost of certainty. She listened politely, but I could tell she didn't believe me. She thought she was different, thought she had it figured out. Let her go with a smile. Some lessons can't be taught, only learned. My foster daughter asked me recently if I regretted my choices, waiting so long to have a family, prioritizing work for so many years. Thought about it honestly, said yes and no, regretted the judgment and the loneliness, regretted the relationships I pushed away, regretted the certainty that made me cruel, but didn't regret the path that led me here. To her, to Michael, to this life. Told her, the regret taught me what matters. She said that's deep, then went back to her phone. Teenagers still struggle sometimes with the old patterns, wanting to prove I'm the smartest person in the room, judging women who make different choices, protecting myself from vulnerability. But I catch myself now. Apologize when I mess up. Try to do better. Michael says growth isn't linear. It's messy and slow. I'm learning to be okay with messy. Wrote one final blog post. An apology to all the traditional wives I mocked, to the women I judged, to everyone I hurt with my certainty. Said I spent my life thinking I was better than them. Turns out I was just afraid of being like them. Afraid of needing someone. Afraid of being vulnerable. Afraid of wanting traditional things. The fear made me cruel. Said I was sorry. Said they were right and I was wrong. Not about everything, but about the important things. Didn't get many responses. Most of those women had moved on. Didn't need my apology. They were secure in their choices. Unlike me, who spent decades trying to justify mine by tearing down theirs. The few who responded were kind. Kinder than I deserved. They said we all do our best. We all make mistakes. We're all just trying to figure it out. Their grace humbled me. My mother died last year, surrounded by family. My sister and I held her hands. My foster daughter cried. She had only known her great-grandmother for 2 years. But the love was real. At the funeral, everyone shared memories. Talked about her kindness, her cooking, her devotion to family. Her legacy was in the people she loved, the family she built, the home she created. Thought about my own legacy. What would people say about me? Used to think they'd talk about my career achievements. Now I hope they talk about how I changed, how I grew, how I learned to love. Sitting here now at 43. Married, mother to a teenager, still working but differently. Life is messy and complicated. Nothing like I planned. Everything I needed. The irony isn't lost on me. Spent decades mocking traditional wives. Begging for a husband at 40. Except it wasn't begging. It was surrendering. Surrendering my certainty, my judgment, my armor. Finding partnership, family, connection. The things I always claimed I didn't need. The other irony is I still have my career. Still successful by conventional measures. But it's not my whole identity anymore. It's just part of who I am. The traditional wives I mocked had it right all along. Not about the specific choices, but about knowing what mattered. They knew family and connection were valuable. I had to learn it the hard way, by achieving everything I thought I wanted, and realizing it wasn't enough. If I could go back and change things, I would. Would be kinder, more open, less certain. Would ask questions instead of making pronouncements. Would build bridges instead of walls. But I can't go back. Can only go forward. Can only be better than I was. Can only teach my daughter what I learned. That success means different things to different people. That judgment usually masks fear. That it's never too late to change. That love requires vulnerability. That family is everything. Sometimes late at night I think about all the women I hurt. The ones I mocked online. The junior colleagues I pushed away. The friends I neglected. The men I rejected. My sister I judged. My mother I pitied. Wish I could apologize to all of them. Tell them I understand now. That they were whole and complete. That I was the one who was lacking. That their choices were just as valid as mine. More valid, maybe. Because they knew what they wanted. And I was just running from what I feared. My foster daughter will graduate high school next year. Going to college after that. Wants to study social work. Says she wants to help kids like her. Kids in the system. Kids who need advocates. Couldn't be prouder. She asked me recently what I wanted to be when I grew up. Laughed and said, I'm still figuring that out. She said, that's okay. Some people never figure it out. At least I'm trying. Out of the mouths of teenagers. Michael and I talk about taking in another foster kid. Maybe younger this time. Maybe siblings. The need is endless. Our capacity is limited. But we can do something more than I was doing before. When I thought career achievement was enough. When I thought I didn't need anyone. When I was so terribly wrong. Ran into David recently. My ex, who said I couldn't put someone else first. He remarried, has another kid now. Looks happy. We had coffee and caught up. Told him he was right about me. Back then I wasn't capable of real partnership. I was too defended, too scared. He said he's glad I figured it out. Glad I found what I needed. Asked if I was happy. Said yes. He smiled and said he could tell. I was different. Softer somehow. Took it as the compliment it was. The firm is grooming someone else for CEO now. A younger woman, brilliant and driven. Reminds me of myself. Pulled her aside recently. Told her she'd probably make it to the top. She had the skills and the drive. But asked her to remember it's not the only thing that matters. She gave me that look. The one I used to give people. The one that says, you just don't understand. Let it go. She'll learn or she won't. Either way, it's her journey. My sister told me recently she's proud of me. Asked for what? She said for changing. For admitting I was wrong. For building a life that's actually fulfilling. Said it takes courage to start over. Told her I didn't have a choice. The old life was killing me. Slowly, quietly, but definitely. She said that's when change happens. When staying the same becomes unbearable. She's wise, my sister. Wish I had listened to her sooner. Thinking about writing a book. About my journey from feminist workaholic to whatever I am now. Not sure what to call it. Recovered feminist. Reformed careerist. Just a woman who figured some things out too late. Michael says it's never too late if you actually changed. And I did change. Fundamentally, permanently. The woman I was at 40 is dead. This woman is different. Still ambitious, but not only ambitious. Still feminist, but not rigidly so. Still me, but better. The title of the book would acknowledge what happened. Feminist who mocked traditional wives begs for husband at 40. Except that's not quite accurate. I didn't beg. I surrendered. I opened. I changed. Found partnership when I stopped being so certain I didn't need it. Found family when I stopped judging what family should look like. Found myself when I stopped defending who I thought I was. The man, Michael, didn't outsmart me. Life did. Reality did. Loneliness did. My own choices did. But in a way, the title is true. I did end up wanting exactly what I mocked. Partnership, family, connection. The traditional things. Just came to them non-traditionally. Through foster care and late-life marriage. Through humility and change. Through admitting I was wrong about almost everything. The entitled feminist I was would hate who I am now. Would see me as a traitor to the cause. As someone who gave up and gave in. Let her think that. I know the truth. I didn't give up. I grew up. Learned that achievement without love is empty. That independence without connection is lonely. That being right all the time just means being alone. My daughter just called me mom for the first time. Not my name, not hey you. Just mom. Team started crying. She asked why I was crying. Told her I was happy. She said that's weird. But she hugged me anyway. This is what I have now. This moment, this girl, this life. It's messy and imperfect. It's everything. So yes, the feminist who mocked traditional wives did end up begging for a husband at 40. Begging for family, for connection, for meaning beyond achievement. And I found it. Not because a man outsmarted me, but because I finally got smart enough to admit what I needed. To admit I was wrong. To admit that women who chose differently weren't less than. They were just different. And often they were happier. Because they knew something I had to learn the hard way. It's not a victory for traditional values over feminism. It's just one woman's journey from certainty to humility. From judgment to acceptance. From loneliness to love. The ending isn't me being put in my place. It's me finally finding my place. Turns out it wasn't at the top of a corporate ladder. It was here. In this messy, loving, imperfect family. With this patient husband and challenging daughter. Still working, still achieving. But not only that. Not anymore. The woman I was would call this settling. The woman I am calls it growing. Both of us would be right. And wrong, like most things in life. It's complicated, and I'm finally okay with that.